What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Josh Holland, and welcome to another episode of Simply Walk the Talk. This is a fun one, and you know what? All of them are fun, but this one we are on site today in Studio City, and we're actually in a studio in Studio City, and we're at Novus. And today I have with me co-founder Dustin Wolfe. He's the co-founder of Launch Medical, Novus, and he's the reason why we're here. And we're gonna get into all things phallic today, right? And so this is definitely a fun episode. I would say we're definitely filming some of this, so we're going to have some things that I may direct you to go and watch because I think it's important. And here on the table we have some devices that look like rockets or whatever, cucumbers, eggplants, whatever. And so yeah, like I'm just gonna kind of dive in. We've got Dustin Wolfe. We met not too long ago, but we've kind of developed a cool little relationship, and I've been testing one of his products, and I'm excited to talk about it because I think this is going to take the world by storm. It already kind of is, but I want to try to do my part to help get it out there. So all the men listening, definitely key in on this, and definitely all the females, because this might be a cool little thing to understand about your man, okay? So anyway, please help me welcome everyone, Dustin Wolfe, to the show. Hello, man. How's it going?
Thank you. I appreciate it, Josh. Thank you so much for having me on. I always love doing these things. I love talking about this. It's a passion of mine, and it's something that we'll get into all the details, but it is very much a part of my life and has been for the last few years. So I'm super pumped, and yeah.
Cool.
Let's go.
So let's do this.
All
right. So I guess first let's talk about the background, because I'm so excited. I almost immediately want to jump into the Phoenix or the rocket, and we can talk about why it's one or the other and what it is now. But let's talk about your background. Let's talk about what got you, because you're an inventor. I guess you would call yourself an inventor.
I'm a co-founder of the company that invented the product, but I'm not actually the inventor. And I have a very interesting story about my partner, Mr. John Hoffman, who I met a few years ago. He's actually the one that invented the technology, which we'll talk about, and I love this story, and I think your audience will find it, pretty amusing too. So everyone seems to love it. But no, my background is, going way back, just a kid out of high school, went into the Air Force. I did my 4 years for our country there, and then when I got out, just disclaimer, everybody listening, I have no formal medical background or no formal training, but we'll get into what I am a specialist of here in a few minutes. And as a young man getting out of the Air Force, met my wife Stephanie and started a family very young, so we started having kids. I found myself working, 2 jobs and, kind of struggling, to put food on the table, and, as a lot of people do, and learned a lot of lessons, worked my butt off, and to get where I'm at today. But kind of fast forwarding through some of my previous careers, and there have been a lot, and I've tested different industries, and I've been at one point I owned a boat dealership, and I worked for Countrywide Home Loans back in the day before they imploded, and I have all kinds of former careers, but I think why that's important to put out there is because I'm a big believer in if you're not constantly trying to move forward and failing at things, you're not learning, and you're not even trying, right?
Well said.
So, and I listen to all these motivational speakers all the time. It's funny at the gym. I'm a big gym guy, workout guy like you, but I stopped listening to music and I started listening to motivational speakers, right, during my workouts. But one message that's consistent in a lot of these in a lot of these guys and women that are motivational speakers is, and you guys have heard it, is failing. If you're not failing, you're not even trying, which means you're not learning, right? So going back to all my former careers is I failed a bunch. I failed a lot, and but I always learned something.
Good.
So, and that's how we ended up here today.
Yeah.
Right. So, kind of fast forwarding a little bit, getting into your audience is probably like, well, what's Novus? So Novus is an age management clinic in Studio City, California, right? And what we do here at Novus is we do hormone balancing here. We do all kinds of PRP therapies, right? So
Which is platelet.
Platelet-rich plasma. I know I get jaded. I abbreviate everything. Platelet-rich plasma, which I'm sure a lot of people in your audience know what that is. Knee injections, elbow injections, hair restoration. I mean, you can do a lot of things with platelet-rich plasma. So we do exosome treatments, which is like a high-powered stem cell. We do all kinds of fun stuff here, right? It's all focused on holistic and regenerative type of medicine, right? We don't prescribe to the Western medicine, way of treating people here. So we actually want to fix people, not make them sick. So, but ultimately, what led us here is we started doing low-intensity extracorporeal shockwave therapy, or shockwave therapy, about 4 years ago here in our clinic, and with an emphasis on male sexual wellness. So I'm sure there's people in your audience that have heard of shockwave therapy. If you haven't, guys, don't freak out. It's a sound wave type of topical therapy that comes out of a device. It's non-invasive. It's not electricity. It's a shockwave, a sound wave, which is low intensity and very therapeutic, right? And the awesome thing about LISWT, or we'll just call it shockwave therapy, is that there are no real known side effects, right? And there's no downtime. So to go one layer deeper, we treat a lot of guys here for sexual wellness. And what it is, again, it's a very expensive, powerful medical grade device that is administered on the top of the skin of the penis, right? And it does two things. I mean, it's amazing. It's incredible. It's not just for guys that are having issues in the bedroom, but it does two things. And those two things, and I know you're educated on this, is it clears the microplaque out of the blood vessels, right? Which we all got, guys. We all got it, right? And it creates microtrauma, which fosters angiogenesis, which is the formation of new blood vessels.
Right.
And those two things, in a very therapeutic way. So those two things lead to much, much, much firmer erections. So guys that are having ED issues, we see a ton of them, and we're the largest clinic in the US that does this. And we're very good at it. We've developed our own protocols. Going back to what I said, I have no formal medical training, but I'm considered what's called a shockwave expert. I have doctors call my office and somehow get my cell phone every single week from all over the country, and they say, I heard about you, I want to come to Studio City, will you train me and my staff and teach us how to do what you do, right? Because again, it's awesome. It's awesome. It's an incredible type of treatment and therapy that isn't just for guys with ED. We get a lot of younger guys in here, right? We get a lot of guys in their 20s and their 30s, and they'll say even in their early 40s, and they'll come in and they'll sit down and they'll be like, hey, they're like, I heard about this, I read it, I read it in Men's Health, I read an article that Ben Greenfield wrote and how cool it is and how amazing it is. And they're like, look, dude, I'm good. Everything's working just fine, but I heard this just makes it better, right?
Exactly. And here's where we can go, because if you're an avid listener of this show, then you would have probably listened to a podcast in which I brought my colleague and good friend, Natalie Vincent. And I love how you said that you're sort of labeled as a medical wave or a shockwave expert. And that's what I call Natalie. Natalie, she's kind of known as like the medical wave queen or the shockwave therapy queen, because she's the one that introduced me to the medical wave, right? Which that's a product, again, we did an entire show on that. So if you want, go back and listen to that episode. I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but we talked all about the brand Stores Medical Wave. And when I first came here to your studio here at Novus, I noticed you have several of the medical wave devices, right?
Yes.
And for me, I was like, I felt at home because I use that device. I work with Natalie in helping to kind of get that out there. But one of the big problems, which this is a good segue into why you created the rocket or the Phoenix,
correct,
right?
Yep.
A good segue is that the medical wave is upwards of, retails at $35,000 or more.
Sometimes it's more, yeah.
And, it's just not as accessible to the bulk of the community. But a lot of guys are finding their ways, they're spending $3,000 for 6 treatments. And, look, it is proving to have some results and some great benefits, but if it doesn't work, can you imagine spending $3,000 on a treatment that may or may not work? So people get frustrated, and then you decided, you know what, I got something for that. So why don't you touch on that?
Awesome. Yeah. So thanks, and yeah. So just to take it one step further is, although our clinic here at Novus is, by volume, the largest shockwave provider in the country, I can tell you guys that, as you just said, the average price for the standard protocol, which is 6 to 12 treatments, is $3,000. 12 treatments, so some guys need, is $6,000, right? So that is a lot of money. That's a lot of money to me, and we do okay here. And that's still a lot of money to me. So it became about 6 months into doing Shockwave here, so this is probably 3.5 years ago. I mean, it became painfully obvious, and I'll get into how the Phoenix was invented. It became painfully obvious that we just couldn't help the vast majority of men that wanted, need, and deserved, this type of therapy, right? Even the younger guys that just wanted a tune-up, that's what we call it. It's just a tune-up. It's like a little, if you change the oil in your car, right?
Tune-up.
It's just out of reach for 99% of the population. Let's just be real, right? So, I mean, if I walked into this clinic 10 years ago and I met, a Dustin Wolfe or someone like me, and they said, hey, if you want this, it's $3,000. There's no way I could have afforded it, right? So it became really obvious that it was unaffordable to most men. And for every 100 guys that called here, maybe 1 or 2 could afford it, right? And they would actually come in and do the treatment. So, I mean, right there, it doesn't take a rocket, scientist, no pun intended, to figure out that, there's a huge void and a big gap in between the guys that can do this and the guys that can't, right? Number one, you have to go into a physical clinic and do this, right? So number one, you gotta have the money. Number two, you gotta be willing to come into a clinic and do it, or live near a clinic like mine that does this. And number three, you gotta get over the kind of the embarrassment factor of walking in and taking your pants off and getting naked and having some, attractive nurse, handle your stuff, right? Your man parts. And that's what it is. So for those 3 reasons, the cost, which is very expensive, the proximity to a clinic like mine, because there's still maybe less than 600 clinics in the U.S. that do this, and the embarrassment factor. Those are 3 huge barriers, right? And you gotta all 3 of those have to be eliminated, or not even an issue for you to come into a clinic like mine and do this. So those are the 3 reasons why the Phoenix was born, and it doesn't take, again, a rocket scientist to know that, there's got to be a better way. Because if you guys in the audience, if you actually saw this treatment done, and you would be like, wait, it's that easy? Like, I could do that to myself, right? It's topical. There's no weird injections or pills or anything like that. It's all natural. And by the way, side note, guys, for those of you that don't know, Shockwave therapy is not anything new. It's actually been around for a very long time, and you probably talked about this on the other show, but doctors in Europe have been administering shockwave therapy for all kinds of different modalities for 20 or 30 years, right, in Europe. Because it's incredible. Again, there's no side effects, and what it does is trigger your own body to heal itself, right? It's like going to the gym, right? So doctors in Europe have been doing this for a long time. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of studies out there from big doctor groups, even urology groups all over the world that prove that it's efficacious and that it's safe. Okay, so again, solving those 3 problems popped into my head. I'm like, if somebody could invent a home use device that guys could purchase and use in the privacy of their own home, and if it was affordable to, let's just say a majority of the men out there, you could help, tens of thousands or millions of men all over the world. That's another issue with having a brick and mortar clinic like mine is, listen, you're only able to treat a finite amount of guys, right? What about the guy in Australia, or the guy in Europe, or the guy in, Asia? What about these poor guys? There's no way they're ever coming here. So fast forward to about 3 years ago, this guy walks into my clinic by the name of John Hoffman, who's now my partner and who actually invented the technology inside of the Phoenix, which we have several patents on now, which I'm super excited about, and several patents pending around the world. But he started coming in, and he's like, we do peptides here, right? Like BPC and those types of things, some Moreland. And he had a shoulder injury, so I showed him around the place. He's like, "What's that?" He pointed at the wave device, right? Like, "Oh, that's this thing we do, Shockwave Therapy, and we treat guys with ED, and we'll just call it optimization. We'll call it the guys that come in here that don't necessarily need it, but want it, optimizers, right? Biohackers." And I started telling him, and I told him about the 3 problems. It's very expensive, not enough clinics, and the embarrassment factor. And I said, if somebody could invent a device that guys could use in the privacy of their own home, and if it was affordable, and if it was safe, and it worked, you could help millions of men all over the world, right? And he goes, I can do that. And I go, okay. And a lot of people say a lot of things, right?
Of course.
I'm not kidding you. 3 weeks later, he came back in, and he puts down what we call Frankenstein, because we have this, call it like the Phoenix wall of fame here through all the prototypes. He puts down the very first prototype of the Phoenix, and I swear you guys can't see my hands, but I'm holding them about 2 feet apart. And it was this monstrosity that had all these wires and sharp, sharp corners and springs and motors and stuff hanging off. It was so weird looking. And I go, what is this? He's like, don't worry about what it looks like. This is called a prototype. He's like, just plug it in. So I plug it in, and I'm not kidding you. I put my hand over the end of it, right where the shockwave comes out, and I was blown away. I was like, it was almost at that point, almost identical to the same shockwave that comes out of these medical grade devices, right?
That's so cool.
And it was, I got up and I shut the door and I go, we're partners. Yeah. I go, you ain't leaving until we sign a partnership deal. So we did, and we did that day, and we worked really, really, really hard, and lots of long hours, 7 days a week, and a lot of our own money. In fact, all of our own money. I put everything I had into this company, and Launch Medical, and now here we are in the market shipping thousands of devices all over the world. So it was an adventure, and I'll tell you, we had a lot of fun. It's very stressful. We went through 27 prototypes, and as you guys can imagine, if you're not manufacturing something at scale, it's extremely expensive to build a one-off prototype of anything, right? Anything. So as you can imagine, 27 prototypes was pretty damaging to my business and personal bank account, but that's how much I believed in it.
Of course.
So and that's how much I believed in it. And along the way, met a lot of awesome people, traveled around the country, meeting with different doctors and different groups and manufacturers and everything you can imagine that goes into a business like this. But we have the product now, and it's called the Phoenix, and I'll talk about the rocket in a second. But it puts out the identical wave signature as these $35,000, $40,000 wave machines do in clinics. And how I know that, side note, there's a video on the website, but how I know that is because we bought a very, very, very expensive piece of testing equipment called a force plate. And in fact, I'll put this out there, but we had to sign like 3 different waivers saying that we wouldn't make a bomb with it, right? You have to, they do background checks on you because it's that sensitive, and there have been issues with people making bombs and stuff in the past with it. But I assure you, we weren't making bombs. What we were doing was we were calibrating the Phoenix to put out the same energy signature as these clinical grade wave machines do. And if you actually see the video, you can literally, it looks like an EKG. It goes boom, 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 the shockwaves, right? And you can see the Phoenix along with the storage unit go boom, 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 putting out the exact same energy signature. It's really cool, man. Cool. Yeah, it's really cool.
So what's interesting here is, and one of the reasons why I'm so excited to have you on the show and to be interviewing you is because we're a lot alike. I myself am not a medical practitioner, and nor do I even claim to be or want to be.
Right,
really,
right.
But,
Yeah.
but we both do a lot of research. We both do a lot of testing, and that's actually how I became familiar with you. You know, is because I sort of like you. I wasn't necessarily thinking like I want to create the void for that was out there, but I was just like searching for something. And I think I listened to a podcast that you were on, and now that I'm out here in California, I looked up the address because I'm thinking, oh, you know what, I want to try out this thing. And we'll talk about this too, but for me, it's never, if I had ED, I'm confident enough in myself to say I have ED. I don't have ED, which is erectile dysfunction. I function very well, but
we can always be a little
but we can always be a little bit
as we
better,
age.
right?
Yes.
And that was what interested me in the past, because when I met Natalie, she was telling me about this, and there's the whole Gainswave thing, and there's what Ben Greenfield did, and obviously I had heard about that, but when she told me that the medical wave by Storrs Medical is basically Gainswave, they're one and the same or whatever, I was like, oh, interesting. I want to see what that feels like, right?
Yep.
And because I knew that there were people who I was working with in my studio in New York that maybe had some issues, because I either overheard their wives talking about it, which obviously as a trainer, you get to know people very well.
Of course.
And so I'm like, okay, maybe this could be something to help my clients. And so with doing all the testing, it's like you, I've had to go in and out of doing prototypes because I'm working on my own suit. I've created my own suit.
Yeah.
And
which is very exciting.
The audience will be hearing that, and I'd love to have you in the suit.
100%.
I was going to bring it today, but I know you have to get going.
I'm always down to test it.
Right. So it's like when I hear your story and what you've gone through from lawsuits to big companies coming after you because you're disrupting the industry, right? Like somebody's making money on these bigger shockwave units, right? And so if the idea truly is to help people, because we won't even say it's just for guys, right? Because I've seen treatments for the female parts. I've seen treatments. I personally use this device on shoulders, knees, ankles, feet. Right. So anyway, I just wanted to applaud you for what you're doing, because I can relate a lot, and I know that it's not easy.
Oh, but man, it ain't easy.
Let's actually talk about that. Let's talk about what you've gone through, because when these big companies see, wait a minute, somebody created something.
Yeah.
I know the first thing that happens is they want to try to discredited it.
Yes.
Right?
Of course.
And so let's talk about that. Let's talk about what you've gone through and to get us where we are.
Exactly. So I'll just kind of start this part of the story off. Is you guys got to remember what happened to Blockbuster when Netflix was born, right? Netflix ate their lunch and put them out of business. Period. I'll just say it like it is, right? That's not what we are aiming to do, and I'll tell you why in a minute. However, whenever there's a new disruptive technology that comes into the marketplace, which is more accessible, which is more cost effective, you're going to piss off a lot of people, right? Because there are a lot of big companies out there making a lot of money, and they're just, they're aging and they're not forward thinking, and there's always a better way to do something, right? So when this technology got recognized as being very real, and I didn't say this earlier, but as you can imagine, I had a list of 3,000 men, in an Excel file that volunteered to be, clinical subjects for the Phoenix, right? Because it was like, wait, you have this device that does this, and you're not going to charge me? I'm like, yeah, but I need you to come in twice a week for, 2 months. I had a line out the door, right? So we got to clinically validate it here too. But anyway, as soon as I'm not kidding, it was probably the day or two after our website launched. This was last year. I started getting phone calls from all kinds of people, doctors, scientists, manufacturers. But one company in particular, I'm not going to name names, which they have a ton of doctors around the country. They're very good at what they do. They were one of the first, if not the first in the industry here in the U.S. to start, getting this out into the marketplace and into doctors' offices, and it's very effective. Basically slapped us with a lawsuit, and not basically, literally slapped us with a lawsuit, and a judge, and it had nothing to do with proprietary technology or anything like that, because the technology inside of the Phoenix is very different than the technology inside of these medical grade devices. But it had to do with a non-compete. Let's just say that, right? That hadn't expired yet, right? So it wasn't anything like we ripped anybody off or anything like that. This product is totally innovative and completely original. But long story short, we got hit with a lawsuit. A judge issued a temporary injunction, and at that time, the product was called the Rocket. All right, this was, late last year. It was called the Rocket. Yeah, and because when you guys see it, it does look like a rocket. Now it was not even actually when it took the final form of the product you see now. It looks like a rocket, so we just named it the Rocket, right?
It can
and
sit
think
upright.
about it.
It can
sit
sit
upright. And if you think about it, like what does a rocket do? It blasts off, right? It's vertical, right? like your man parts should be, or want to be. So anyway, this lawsuit was very, it was extremely exhausting, very mentally draining, as you can imagine. All these things, right? Again, because it's such a disruptive technology. People were coming after us hard. And ultimately it got settled and we moved forward and, everybody's fine, everybody's happy. But that's just, it's one example of, tens of thousands of, other examples of what happens when a new disruptive technology enters the market. And we were interviewed by Forbes magazine last year. And they published an article on us saying that that this is $1 billion disruptive technology because we can ship all over the world, right? And we can help guys have, better, more fulfilling sex lives in every corner of the planet, right? So, but that stuff happens, and we put it behind us. We're that's ancient history, and here we are, on shows like yours, getting this out there into the public, and we're very excited. We're very proud of it. There are a lot of things that this type of therapy can help and fix. And you mentioned I use it on my shoulder. Listen, this type of wave will heal tissue. It'll break it down, cause micro trauma, and your brain will push blood flow to that area, much like what happens when you get a pump at the gym. And what comes with that rich oxygenated blood, as you know, growth factors, fibroblasts, stem cell activation, all these wonderful things happen to grow new tissue and increase blood flow. But I could go on and on and on and on about how the stories, and all the mountains that we had to climb, and the valleys that we had to get through, to make this thing happen. And like you said, it's not easy, and it's one of those things that damn near killed me.
Dude, I'm very, very happy that we got here and that you aren't dead and you're very much thriving, and it's an exciting process, and I'm happy to be a part of it.
Awesome.
So with that, being that I'm a part of it, right?
Yeah.
I came to meet with you because I'm like, wait, when I realized you guys are in California,
right?
I'm like,
we're right over the hill from you.
Right over the hill.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'm in Beverly Hills. You guys here in Studio City.
Yep.
So I drove over and we met and we hit it off right away.
Yep.
And you were gracious enough to kind of walk me through your studio and the clinic, and I met everyone here, and I was like, okay, I want to get one of these things.
Absolutely.
So I want to get it. I want to try it out because for me, I'll be honest, I kind of felt like this is too good to be true, right? Because, it's like, we'll talk about price and all that stuff towards the end of this, but the other devices out there are expensive and they're big, right? And they're great, they work well, but we've already talked about all those barriers. But now, here it is, it's almost too good to be true, and I'm looking at this beautifully packaged, it's almost like packaged like an Apple device would be packaged, and I'm like, no way. I mean, and we didn't turn it on here.
No.
And so, I took this package home, and in fact, I even posted a photo on my Instagram stories.
Nice,
that with the link and everything, which we'll talk about at the very end of this. But I posted its photo, and I even just wrote, things are about to get really weird. And because I just kind of thought, like, for me, this is fun. I love testing things, and so I take this thing home, and this is where I want to really get down to kind of like what this device is, because I know something that's very, very important is that when you open this box up, you see this this amazing package, a device that's supposed to help your package, right? And guys or people right away are going to think, okay, let me just use it without reading the instructions like we all do. Okay?
Of course. Most guys are like, I don't need the instructions to putting stuff together. Absolutely.
Right. So, knowing this and knowing that this is kind of a problem, I was thinking to myself, nope, I'm not going to do that. Right.
Yes.
So I want to learn the ins and outs of how this device works. And so, I take this device out, I screw on the top, read the directions, plug it in, turn it on. And, some of the things I noticed right away is like, okay, chances are I need to use this a few times. And you talked about how this is similar to a workout, right?
Yes.
And so when you're working out, obviously, if you've listened to this show enough, you know where my stance is on this, but you want to maximize your potential and optimize your result by giving your body a tough workout, creating those micro traumas, and then a lot of what? Recovery, right?
Yes.
And so you mentioned that this is similar to a workout, and so could you use this every day? You could, right, without having this technology, but this technology sort of forces you to recover.
Yes, it
and I
does.
think that's important, and I think it's a really cool part of your product.
Thank you.
Right,
Yeah.
because there's a lockout period.
There's a
right?
lockout period. Yeah, you can't overuse, you can't overtreat. And just like I know where you're going with that. Like, guys, you don't go into the gym and do heavy chest every day. I mean, why would you do that? You won't grow and you won't recover. This is the same thing. My partner hates when I say this, but this is like taking your Johnson to the gym. It's like bench press for your man boards.
Yeah.
Right? It's like working out.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not even just like working out. It's like max workout, right?
Yes.
Because you're sending so many shockwave signals, frequencies, like sound waves into your penis.
Yep.
And I also understand right now, guys, girls, everyone are thinking, wait a minute, you're putting this thing on your penis. Like,
Yeah.
yes, you are, right?
My mom is so proud.
Right. My mom listens to this podcast. Mom,
Sorry, Mom.
I'm sorry, but this is all for the name of science.
Science,
right?
yeah.
So so you take your penis, and if you're like me, you've tested all these things, and you don't care about bad taste, you don't care about pain, then you won't need lidocaine, right?
No.
But like, I know with some of the other treatments, they recommend lidocaine just to make it a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah.
But
every guy has a little different sensitivity, threshold, but yeah.
right. And so, so you can choose to put lidocaine on or not.
Yep.
And the website is beautifully done because it walks you through all
Every
of this,
step.
right? And so you do your first treatment, right? And it's literally like a mini jackhammer.
Yes, it
right?
is. Call it like it is. And it's, guys, it's loud. I want you guys to understand. I mean, we have, actually, we're updating the website because a lot of people are like, oh, I didn't realize it's so loud. Well, it's a shockwave. What does shockwave sound like? It's loud. And the reason why it's loud is because if it wasn't loud, A, it wouldn't work. But B, it's loud because there's a tremendous amount of force that is produced to make that shockwave happen, right? And that's why it's so therapeutic to remove this microplaque and cause microtrauma to grow new blood vessels and healthy blood vessels and wake up collapsed blood vessels. Is it creates a loud noise, right? It's pop, 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 and that's what it does. So some people, when they turn it on, they say it kind of scares them a little bit, right? But
it's loud.
It's loud, man. But it's loud because it works.
Right. Exactly. I'm glad we're getting to this part because this is kind of the nuts and bolts and the meat and potatoes, right?
Yes.
Because it's like, if you're out there thinking about, okay, is this going to be right for me? Chances are yes, because if you've got any issues with your man parts or lady parts, if you've got any issues, then ultimately, I think the best way to describe it simply is by saying that it increases circulation, right?
Increases blood flow.
Blood flow, right?
Yes.
Right. So if you think of your penis as having like spongy material on the sides.
Spongy
right?
tissue, yes.
Spongy tissue.
Yes.
What happens to a sponge that is left out, right? Eventually it dries up.
It dries up.
Right? So it doesn't perform very
Brittle,
well.
exactly.
So
yes.
taking the shockwave treatment or taking the Phoenix along it in the different ways, because we'll talk about that soon, but like, it has a protocol in which you go down the 5 lines, right?
Yes.
So the goal there is to almost like moisten, so to speak,
Yeah.
or replump.
Yeah,
that,
we
that
fill up
spongy
those
material.
areas with blood.
There you go.
Right? Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. What happens is it's kind of like, the brain senses these shock waves going through the tissue, and it pushes blood flow down there, right? It pushes the growth factors and the fibroblasts to heal the tissue. And when I say heal the tissue, I don't mean, you don't wake up the next day and you're like, oh my God, I'm so sore. It's not like that with this. This is very therapeutic because it's a low intensity shock wave, right? So again, when I say that we'll talk about, side effects, and potential downsides in a minute. But listen, guys, they'll actually use this right before they have sex. Like right before.
Yeah.
And you don't have to. I'm just saying, like, they love it. We have a lot of customers write in. They're like, oh, I like to do my treatments on Friday nights because I'm getting ready for a big weekend, and like, I'm like, that's awesome, man.
Right.
I hear it all the time.
Yeah, and and here's the thing, like talking about sex and talking about penises and and vaginas and man parts, lady parts, like this shouldn't be taboo, but it is, and that's just programming from it's a whole different topic.
Sure.
Okay.
You need a whole show on that.
Oh, absolutely, probably a whole season. But aside from that, you're now, regardless of if you have an erectile dysfunction, you have Peyronie's, which for people who are unfamiliar with Peyronie's, it's basically curvature of the penis.
It's a curvature of the shaft, which is usually a result of some type of trauma. Usually it's a sexual accident.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is very common.
Real. It's very real. It's very common. And it can be very painful and very embarrassing, right? So we have a lot of patients that come into the clinic, and we have a lot of guys that buy the Phoenix just for their Peyronie's, which we could talk about. So the shock waves that come out of these devices will actually correct Peyronie's, right? It'll break up the scar tissue and help straighten out the shaft, right? And it's very common. It's embarrassing for guys, and it can actually be very painful. So that, for those of you who have never heard of it, it's very real. So
yeah, if you think of Peyronie's, like why it even exists, I mean, it's like, think of it almost like a water hose, right?
Yes.
And you've crimped the water hose on one side, right? Like by providing some sort of force. Or trauma or whatever. Well, the water will still go through it, but it won't go through it as well, right?
Correct.
And so what happens is now, obviously there's a protocol for what you guys list on how to help with Peyronie's, right? But what you're doing is you're essentially sort of taking out that crimping.
Yes.
And now the blood flow is full.
Well, what will happen is the shock waves, when applied to the area where the scar tissue is, it'll actually break down that scar tissue and help the body replace it with healthy new blood vessels and healthy new tissue. So it is very effective, and we have a lot of guys write in and they're like, you changed my life, and it's pretty cool, very cool and very satisfying to see that. So Peyronie's is very real, and we actually treat a lot of it here in the clinic as well. From guys that come in and God, I've seen everything, man. I've seen everything. Young kids, like 18, 19-year-old kids that come in and they got hit with a baseball bat, at practice, or I had one guy come in that got into a motorcycle accident, and he went over the handlebars, and he smashed up against the gas tank, and so. But most of the time, it's some type of sexual accident where these people are getting a little too crazy, So, but and it happens. So, again, very effective. But when we're talking about I know you wanted to talk about the potential risks and potential downside. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, okay, so it's easy to talk about the benefits, right? And
of course.
And I do have a question before we go into side effects, because like a lot of people. So okay, let's assume that this is for the question for the guy out there is like, well, I don't have ED and I don't have Peyronie's. I just want to have better performance.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Does that mean that you're going to grow in size? Does that mean just firmer erections? What does that mean, and what does that look like?
Well, let's start that. I'll start that answer off like this. So we have our chief medical director is a guy by the name of Dr. Paul Thompson. He's been a urologist for 30 years. This guy is incredible. He's an award-winning urologist, and what he likes to say, and I really like this analogy, is this is like, as we age, no matter how well we take care of ourselves, how well we eat, how well we exercise, what kind of good sleep we get, the fact is that, aging is like a light switch dimming on us very slowly, right? And sometimes it's not noticeable, but what'll happen is over time, we get a lot of guys that come in here and they're, I don't have ED, I just want better performance, or there's no way this can get me, my sex and erections can get any better. And I'm like, dude, you got to try this. Watch what happens. So here's what I equate it to. The guys love this, and I feel like everybody can kind of click with this, right? So they sit down and talk to him, and I said, first thing I ask him, do you brush your teeth? You better not say no. If you do, get out of here. I'm gonna call your mom. No. Do you brush your teeth? Yes. Well, why do you brush your teeth? Well, because I want good oral care. What, do you want to keep your teeth? Yeah, I want to keep my teeth. Okay, well, that's why you brush your teeth, right? Do you go to the dentist? You still go to the dentist, right? Most people go to the dentist twice a year to get their regular cleaning and checkup, right? Because no matter how well you brush your teeth, you still have to go to the dentist to get that plaque cleaned off, especially on the back of your teeth. They get in there and they scrape and scrape and scrape, and this plaque comes off, and you're like, I brush and floss twice a day. This is the same thing, and that's the exact same plaque, I promise you, that is accumulating in the blood vessels all over your body and even in your penis, right? So we've had a lot of guys come in here, 30 years old, they're like, I'm a 9.5 and I want to be a 10. I don't even know if that's possible, but I'm willing to risk it, right? I'm not kidding you. A month later, like, oh my God, I forgot what it was. I feel like I'm 18 again. But again, because no matter how much we don't want to admit it, even if you have a great sex life, this can make it better because it clears the microplaque out of the blood vessels of the penis. And we all have it, guys. I'm just going to put it out there like it is. You got it. You don't want to admit it. It's the same plaque that's on your teeth. So I tell these guys, you want to keep your teeth? Why do you want to keep your teeth? Because you like to eat food. Well, men like to have sex, right? Of course. So that's what we want. We want to keep a good, healthy sex life going as long as we possibly can. And this type of treatment and this type of therapy is exactly like going to the gym or going to the dentist. It's maintenance. Guys, it's maintenance.
And it's back to the analogy you said earlier, tune-up, right?
It's a tune-up. It's a tune-up, man.
You got to get your car.
I use it once a week. It's just like it's a tune-up. It's just a habit of mine, right? It takes 20 minutes. Big deal. You got 20 minutes, right?
Yeah.
You watch TV, turn the TV off.
Yeah.
Do this.
Exactly. So this next comment will kind of lead into the potential downside.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
But it's a very, very positive downside, right? Because, so okay, let's say you get to the point at which, things are starting to work well, right? Whether that's the first treatment or it's the 20th treatment.
Yes.
At some point, the rocket might be ready to take off. Without you even really expecting it.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So, yes, that happens.
Like, an example is like I was nowadays we're home. I'm doing virtual training sessions with clients.
Sure.
And it was after my second treatment. Mm-hmm. So after my second treatment, and it's in the morning time. So I wake up, and I've always talked about this with my male clients. If you wake up with a morning erection, we call it morning wood. If you wake up with a morning erection, that usually is a good sign of good hormonal health.
Yes, that's correct.
Right?
Yes.
So, okay, if that's a good sign of hormonal health, then okay, that means things are happening and things are working well. Great.
Yes.
Well, I remember sitting to do my virtual training session, and under the table, things started moving. And I was like, oh boy, this is interesting, right? So the reason why I say it's a very positive downside is because, look, you could out of nowhere get an erection.
Yes,
and
it happens all the time, with guys
amazing.
that do, we'll call it acoustic wave or shockwave therapy. The spontaneous erections, even when you're not expecting it, can really surprise you. So, look, if you read the clinical studies and you do enough research, you'll see that we're not claiming to have invented this technology. We just made it affordable and convenient, right? But the reality is guys, the research I've done, there are literally no downsides to this, right? So here's what I tell people. There's only one contraindication that I could find, right? Which is like, you should definitely check with your doctor before you try this. And that's if you have a history of blood clotting, right? Then you should talk to your doctor before you do any type of new therapy or new any type of new health routine, right? And I'm just going to put that disclaimer out there, and it's on our website too, that, hey, before you start any new, type of treatment or therapy, always talk to your doctor first, of course. But the reality is this is extremely safe. We've treated, we have, let's say, thousands of patients, right? We've done tens of thousands of treatments, and there's very little downside. Now, what your audience is going to want to know, and we should always talk about this, is, and I'll say it again, there's no downtime and there's no side effects to this, but guys are going to want to know, oh, well, will this work for me, right? And here's the deal, guys. It's like everybody's experience is a little different. I have 75-year-old customers that write in, and they're like, I haven't had an erection in 20 years. Not even Viagra works. I bought the Phoenix, a month later, I feel like I'm 45 or 50 again. Boom, no drugs, no nothing. Having amazing intercourse, with his wife or partner, having great sex, amazing erections, right? And then we might get the 75-year-old guy that doesn't work so well for, right? I'll tell you, this product and this technology has, let's say, a 85 to 90% success rate. Now, who are the 10 to 15% of men that this won't work for, right? Or doesn't work that well for? And these are the following. This is what I found. And this is what I will back up through, again, thousands of patients in my clinic, is the following. Usually, it's a male that has, some type of, long-running systemic, cardiovascular issue. Let's just say he's obese, right? Or he doesn't take care of himself. Maybe he's been a smoker for 30 years, right? long time diabetics because their blood vessels are weak, right? So as you know, and I'm sure a lot of people in your audience know this, one of the side effects of diabetes and the medication that comes with diabetes is ED, right? So and then the other one is guys that have uncontrolled high blood pressure. Okay, those are some, those are probably the top, let's say 2, 3, 4 guys that this won't work for or won't work that well for, right? Long-time smokers, diabetics, high blood pressure, and obesity. But guys, come on, man. Like, if you don't take care of those issues, you're not going to be around long enough to enjoy your penis anyway.
Well, that's what's interesting. Sorry to cut you off.
No,
but
jump in.
What's interesting there is that these are the same type of people who are affected by COVID, right?
Exactly. They're the ones that are getting like real sick,
So we need to be taking care of ourselves.
Yes, you got to be taking care of yourselves, guys. Come on. So think about it like that. So again, though, I'll have the 65 or 75-year-old man call us. He's like, "Oh my God, you changed my life." But that guy's living a healthy lifestyle. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying you got to be, Josh Holland. I'm not saying you got to be, Arnold Schwarzenegger for this to work. If you're relatively healthy and you lead a semi, active and you get a little bit of exercise a week and you try to eat right and you get enough sleep, this is going to crush it for you,
Well, here's another great segue for that, right?
Yeah.
Because, and I found this to be interesting because, again, I do a lot of research.
Yeah.
I do a lot of testing of products,
Yes.
and that's what this kind of world of biohacking is all about, right? But I noticed that on the website there's an adjunct or an accessory to this,
Yes.
which is the pump.
The pump,
right?
yes, yep.
And so maybe let's talk about
Let's
that.
talk about that for a second.
Because I want people to walk away listening to this podcast thinking, okay, I'm gonna get one. I'm gonna use Josh's discount because we're gonna provide that at the end, right?
Yeah.
And I'm gonna get everything I can to do it right. So you're gonna live a healthier life.
Yes.
You're gonna drink a lot of water, have better hydration. You're gonna do the shockwave treatment, and you're gonna do the pumping.
You're going to do the pumping, and I'll tell you why. So we don't charge for it. It actually comes as a kit, right? It's it's an accessory to the Phoenix. It comes as a kit, and I'll tell you why. Is when we first started doing this in our clinic 4 years ago, what we found is one of the protocols that we got a hold of involved the patients using a penis pump 1 to 2 times a day while they were going through a series of treatments. And guys, a series of treatments is 6 to 12. Take a little break, and then you can do maintenance as needed, right? Once or twice a week. But what we found was when we picked up the protocol and started using it in our practice where the guys used the pump, the guys, more guys started getting better results, right? So, and that's what we teach our patients too. And here's why. Anytime you can increase blood flow to the area to feed this new tissue, these new blood vessels, rich oxygenated blood, you're going to get better results. So think about it like this: we're rebuilding, we're rebuilding collapsed blood vessels, and we're growing new blood vessels, which grows new tissue. So that's why when you use the pump, you get such better results and faster results. Is because we're providing that tissue-rich oxygenated blood, which has what? Fibroblasts, growth factors, stem cell activation, right? So all these rich healing properties, which is found in PRP2, right?
Yeah.
The rich plasma. So that's why we have, our customers and our patients here use the pump once to twice a day for 10 minutes. Don't get crazy, but while they're going through a series of treatments. And by far and away, the guys that use the pump in conjunction with the Phoenix or in conjunction with in-clinic Shockwave do get better results and quicker results.
So there you go. All right, so I obviously I think we can talk about this forever.
Oh yeah.
I know you got to get going, and
good.
I want to definitely wrap this up, but I do want to, I'd love to have you on again anytime.
Absolutely.
And and I'll just talk about my I guess results, so to speak, because I meant to do my 6th treatment this morning,
right.
And I had to go and pick up a colleague, and I had sessions and things like that, so I didn't get a chance to do that. But within, like I mentioned before, within my 2nd treatment, I was already feeling like, whoa, this is different. This is very different.
Right.
And to be good, or to be able to have this kind of technology in my home, where in the comfort of my own privacy. Obviously, like if my roommates or anybody hears this loud,
like, what is going on down there?
They know what's going on down there, right? But besides that, it's like, look, to be able to have this technology, I think not only does it help you physically, but think about the confidence, right? You now have the confidence, whether you have an ED issue or not, knowing that you're performing better, I think works across the board.
Yes,
right?
yeah.
So
it affects your whole life.
It really does. And something that's really cool, everyone, is Dustin is very, very easy to chat with. I'm sure he'd be willing to answer any questions. And at the end of this, I'll give you an opportunity to tell people where to go. And we'll talk about pricing and things like that.
Of course.
But there's 2 things I always ask every person I have come on the show. And this is the fun part, because it helps. It kind of provides another layer of getting to know the person across from me.
Of course.
And so the first thing is what is your top 2 pet peeves? Okay, something that gets under your skin, and it can be from any domain. It doesn't have to be about the product we're talking about today, but I want to know about that, and then I want to finish with something you're grateful for. Okay. So have at it.
So oh God.
On the spot.
You just put me on the spot.
This is good.
Okay, so one thing that just popped into my head is pet peeves. Laziness. Yeah. And listen, I can get lazy once in a while too, which is a pet peeve of mine, because, God, what is it? What's that saying? Like the harder I work, the luckier I get, right?
Yeah.
Right. So I live by that motto: the harder I work, the luckier I get. And everybody kind of go in their life goes through cycles where they can kind of fall out of a routine and get lazy and put things off, and not want to work out or eat right, or whatever it is, call your mom. Like, people can get lazy, and I myself find myself doing it once in a while too, and I kind of got to put myself in check. But laziness is just a pet peeve of mine. I can't stand laziness, right? It just drives me nuts. And again, like, I'm not perfect. I get lazy once in a while too, and I gotta give myself a kick in the butt to kind of get back on the horse and get back with the program. But laziness is a big pet peeve of mine.
That's a good one. That's probably a first on the show.
Okay, and now I'm gonna get real petty. Slow walkers, God, get out of my way, please. I'm not kidding. It's like, oh my God, I can't stand slow walkers. I can usually find a way to get around them, but sometimes you get into a lane and you can't get around them, and I see that a lot at Disneyland, right?
That's so funny.
Yeah, so that'll lead me into your third question. Grateful. So, I think I'm most grateful for my family, my kids. I was very lucky at a young age to have children, healthy, boy and a girl who I still see and talk to every day. They're adults now. So we just had breakfast this morning. So I'm very grateful for them. Just gratitude, because it's so interesting, because a lot of times when we talk, I feel like I'm the kid and I'm learning from them, and they're the parent, because they see the world through a different lens than I do. I'm a generation older than they are. And, I was talking to my daughter this morning. She taught me a lesson. And I was like, when did you become so smart? You've grown up. She's 18 now. And even my son too. So just super, super, super grateful for them, and I learned from them. And so they're a different generation. They're a younger generation, who they're fighting for stuff that they believe in too, that I don't necessarily pay attention to or think that I care about. And then when they explain their perception of it and how they feel, I look at things differently. So
that's beautiful.
Yeah, very grateful for that. And I'm grateful for my businesses and they being able to help, lots and lots and lots of people and change lives, man. I get these videos. I'll get a random, email from some guy who somehow got my email, and telling me, this big long story. This guy took an hour to write this novel to me, and about how about how we changed his life and saved his marriage and all these cool things. So yeah, those are, it's more than one thing I'm grateful for.
But see, that's what's beautiful about it, and I'm happy that you just did that, because it was like to keep you to one gratefulness or gratitude mention.
It's tough, man.
Tough, right?
It's tough.
And
I'm grateful for a lot.
Yeah, and that's beautiful, and that's the reason why I feel like we gelled.
We do.
I also feel like I will do whatever I can to support a company with, a co-founder like yourself.
Thank you.
Running it and doing it sort of, you bootstrap this thing, and here it is. Mm-hmm. Now you got a beautiful product. So
thank you.
So now here's the part of the show where people can find out how to get it, where to get it, what to do about it. So
one other thing I want to add to that is there's no way in hell I could have done this by myself, and I have a very, very talented team, and my partners, Stephanie Wolff and John Hoffman, and all the guys in our company and gals in our company who do what they do every day. I'm very grateful for. But yeah, they're a rock star team, and we're growing every single day. And we just leased a bigger space because we're growing so fast. But yeah, those guys are a huge, huge, huge part of this, and the main reason why we're at where we're at today. So I'm just the lucky guy that gets to come on here and take most of the credit for it.
Well, because yeah.
But I always throw it out there. They really they deserve definitely deserve ups and applaud on that. But yeah, so let's talk about where you guys can go check it out. Listen, when you go to the website, I tell you the website, but guys, listen, go look at it. Go review the information, learn more about the product, exactly how it works. You can see how it's used. But shit, don't take my word for it. We have hundreds of reviews that are, third party. I don't know if you know what Yotpo is or some of these third party, verification, softwares are, but these guys they write their reviews and they talk about their experiences. Go read through those, and there's new ones on there every day, and I'm just blown away by what these guys are saying. So it's pretty awesome. But so the product is called the Phoenix. So if you go to getmyphoenix.com/Josh, it should if you do want to purchase the product, it'll auto populate a $50 off coupon. And if it doesn't, I think the code is Josh50.
Josh50.
Yeah, if you guys decide to buy it, do your research on it. But if you guys decide to buy it, go to getmyphoenix.com/Josh and check it out. Look at the information. And if you got questions about it on there, we got live chat on there. My live chat customer support team is really awesome. They're not somewhere halfway across the world. They work for me full time, PST, and they're very knowledgeable. And
by the way, that's exactly how we got in touch.
Yeah, exactly, right?
So it does
through
work.
Live chat, it does work.
It works very well.
You can write in. You can ask questions. My customer support team is fantastic. I talk to them every morning. We have a phone call, and you guys check the product out. It is pretty awesome. And I'm going to tell you.
And what is the price point?
So it's $850. It's $850. And let's talk about that for one last second before we jump off here. Is when you really think about this, we wanted to make it way more affordable. $850. Look, this isn't a $99 product. This is something that is very sturdy, is very durable, and is going to last a long time. And my engineers down in El Segundo, every new batch that comes out of the factory, we'll take a sample of 5 to 10 of them, and we'll try to break them. We'll run them 24/7. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of treatments, and we can't even break them anymore. So the reason why I say that is because you might be thinking, oh my God, it's $850. I get a $50 off coupon through Josh. But still, when you equate that to paying $3,000, let's call it $500 per treatment, right? At a clinic like mine, anywhere in the country or around the world, that $500 per treatment session is going to add up real fast, right? So you do 12 treatments, you're looking at $6,000, and that's all you get. That's why this product is so disruptive, because of what it does, and you can use it at your convenience. But that $850 price point, honestly, I think is a bargain. And we have guys on video testimonials that they're just like, it's the best thing I've ever bought.
Yeah.
Best purchase I ever made.
Yep.
For $850. So yeah, it's not exactly it's not a $50 widget. This thing is a groundbreaking therapeutic device that it can be used in the convenience of your own home.
Well done, man. Well done.
I've done this a couple of times, but yeah.
I was gonna say, so yeah, there you have it, everyone. Thank you, obviously, for listening up to this point. Dustin, thank you for having me on the show, or having yourself on the show.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
And for all the listeners, definitely go check out the website. Are you guys on Instagram as well?
We are on Instagram. I believe so. We have a Get My Phoenix Instagram or Launch Medical. Go check out. Actually, if you want to see, we have a bunch of other content and educational content from our medical director and Acoustic Wave Therapy and other things. But go to the Launch Medical YouTube channel, and you can see that we have just a ton of videos up there that'll interest you and kind of educate you more on not only the technology but the product as well.
And I'm sure that one last question before we go, because I'm sure people are going to be wondering this as well. Are they going to be seeing actual penises on the website? No. Come on, we keep it classy. So no, there's no penises on there. We might, make a couple jokes here and there about eggplants, but no. I think there's one video on there where my wife Stephanie is demonstrating it on an eggplant or a banana or something like that. But banana, you guys get it. You get it. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Okay. Well, go check out getmyphoenix.com/Josh.
Yep.
And use coupon code Josh50 for $50 off. And please call in. I guess you could call me, or send us comments or any kind of testimonials. Go to the website, check them out, hit them up, let them know if it's working for you, how it's working for you, and then hopefully we have you back on the show.
One more thing I forgot to say, guys, this is so important. We have a 30-day money-back guarantee, no questions asked.
Oh,
so keep in mind, it's huge, but keep in mind it can take up to 90 days to grow new blood vessels and fully realize the treatment. But we have a 30-day money-back guarantee, no questions asked. Boom, boom. So that's how confident we are.
There you go. Boom. All right, man.
Thanks, Josh.
Well, good to have you, and thanks for listening, everyone. And until next time, this is Simply Walk the Talk. Peace.